Alrighty, Rooney, we'll just get started right away here with a festive stream here. Welcome back to Wordy Wednesdays. I'm your intrepid narrator, Fraggeth, your festive intrepid narrator, Fraggeth, and today we're going to be reading a short story by one Charles Stross entitled Overtime. And Merry Christmas to all. Oh, thank you for tuning in, Liz Angel. Wow, that was fast. Okay, let me make sure I'm getting the window here. I think I am. Let me mix the image. Yes. Let me scooch this around here, see how I can. Just going to play around with the image here, make sure that's readable. So this is on reactormag.com. I meant to include that in. I meant to make this a read-along if people want to read along, so I'm sending that in the text chat. If you want to read along, alternatively, you can just read it off the screen. So this was published on December 22nd of 2009 on reactormag.com. There's an illustration here by Carl Wiens. It has been edited apparently by Patrick Nielsen Hayden, and it was part of they had a selection entitled December Belongs to Cthulhu. Cthulhu. And the story is again entitled Overtime. It is nominally part of Charles Stross's The Laundry Files, which is about. Scooch this down so you can actually see the image better. Which is about a shadowy, sort of shadowy, British government agency that deals with occult threats to Crown Country and the world, I guess. Hey, Clank, thanks for tuning in via Twitch, if my icons are reading properly. Yes. Cool, things are working today. Let's see how long that continues. So this is a story of, let's see. This is a story about office drama. It's a story about bureaucratic budgetry. And it's a story about eldritch abominations from beyond the nameless void. Everything a festive season deserves. Possibly. Um, so with that, we'll get cracking. There will be some Britishisms. I'm not going to promise to read every voice in a appropriately British Isle voice, but we'll try, won't we? Anyway, without further ado, this is Overtime by Charles Stross. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in, and there are a few of you already. Oh, it's going to be offset to the left? Is that what's going to happen? Give me a sec. I should have played around with this a little more. Come on. Come on. Always to the left. It's going to just keep doing that. It's not going to help me much. Okay, whatever. You'll just deal with it being offset to the left. I'm sorry. If you're a cell phone user or viewer, it's not going to do you much good, is it? Oh, well. Let me actually real quick bump up the magnification. How do I do that? Oh, I used to have this all memorized. Not view page source. Where are you? Oh, because I got rid of the zoom controls. Boom. Thank you. Nope. That's the wrong one. We're having fun. Where'd I just put it? Oh, no. Oh, there they are. Okay, we're good. Perfect. Better. Much better. That's actually readable. Glorious. Let me tweak this a little, because that is a bit... That's better. So you don't have this overhanging overtime bar up above. Okay. Sorry about that. So, overtime. These aren't always smooth, especially when I'm winging it. Ah, so, without further ado, Overtime by Charles Stross. Let's do it from the top. All bureaucracies obey certain iron laws, and one of the oldest is this: get your seasonal leave booked early, lest you be trampled in the rush. I broke the rule this year, and now I'm paying the price. It's not my fault I failed to book my Christmas leave in time. I was in hospital and heavily sedated. But the ruthless cut and thrust of office politics makes no allowance for those who fall in the line of battle. "You should have foreseen your hospitalization and planned around it," said the memo from HR when I complained. They're quite right, and I've made a note to book in advance next time I'm about to be abducted by murderous cultists or enemy spies. I briefly considered pulling an extended sickie, but Brenda from admin has a heart of gold. She pointed out that if I volunteered as night duty officer over the seasonal period, I could not only claim triple pay and a time off in lieu, I'd also be working 3 grades above my assigned role. For purposes of gaining experience points in the fast track promotion game they've steered me onto, that's hard to beat. So here I am, in the office on Christmas Eve, playing bureaucratic Pokemon as the chilly rain drums on the roof. Oh, you wondered what Mo thinks of this? She's off visiting her dits of a mum down in Glastonbury. After last time, we agreed it would be a good idea if I kept a low profile. Christmas, the one time of year when you can't avoid the nuts in your family muesli. But I digress. Christmas. The season of goodwill towards all men, except for bank managers, credit scoring agencies, everyone who works in the greeting card business, and dodgy men in red suits who hang out in toy shops and scare small children by shouting, "Ho, ho, ho!" By the time I got out of hospital in September, the Christmas seasonal displays were already going up in the shops, mistletoe and holly and metallized tinsel pushing out the last of summer's tanning lotion and Hawaiian shirts. I can't say I've ever been big on the English suburban Christmas. First, you play join the dots with bank holidays and what's left of your annual leave to get as many consecutive days off work as possible. Then, instead of doing something useful and constructive with it, you gorge yourself into a turkey-addled stomach-bloating haze, drink too much cheap plonk, pick fights with the in-laws, and fall asleep on the sofa in front of the traditional family-friendly crap the BBC pumps out every December 25th in case the wee ones are watching. These days, the little uns are all up in their rooms playing Chicks vs. Zombies 8.0 with the gore dialed to splashy giblets halfway up the walls. Only adults bother watching TV as a social activity these days. But has Auntie Beebe noticed? Oh no, they haven't. So it's crap pantomimes and Mary Poppins and reruns of the Two Ronnies for you, Sonny, whether you like it or not. It's like being trapped in 1974 forever. And you can forget about escaping onto the internet. Everybody else has had the same idea, and the tubes are clogged. Alternatively, you can spend Christmas alone in the office, where at least it's quiet once everyone else has gone home. You can get some work done, or read a book, or surreptitiously play Chicks v Zombies 8.0 with the gore dialed down to suitable for adults. At least, that's the way it's supposed to work. Except when it doesn't. Like now. Let's rewind a week. I'm pecking away at a quality assessment form on my office PC when there's a knock at the door. I glance up. It's Bill from security. "Are you busy right now?" he asks. Um, my heart just about skips a beat. Not really? Bill is one of our regular security officers, a former blue suitor, salt and pepper mustache, silver comb over, but keeps trim and marches everywhere like he's still in the military. "It's about your Christmas shift," he says, smiling vaguely and hefting a bunch of keys the size of a hand grenade. "I'm supposed to show you the ropes, seeing as how you're on overnight duty next week." He jangles the keyring. "If you can spare half an hour." My heartbeat returns to normal. I glance at the email on my computer screen. Yeah, sure. It's taken me about 5 seconds to cycle from mild terror to abject relief. He's not here to chew me out over the state of my trainers.
Very good, sir. If you'd care to step this way.
From Bill, even a polite request sounds a little like an order.
You haven't done the graveyard shift before, have you, sir? There's not a lot to it, usually. You're required to remain in the building and on call at all times. That's within reason, of course. Toilet breaks permitted, there's an extension, and there's a bulk bed. You probably won't have to do anything, but in the unlikely event, well, you're the night duty officer.
We climb a staircase, pass through a pair of singularly battered fire doors, and proceed at a quick march across a puce-painted corridor with high wired glass windows, their hinges painted shut. Bill produces his keyring with a jangling flourish.
Behold, the duty officer's watchroom.
We are in the new annex, a depressing new brutalist slab of concrete that sits atop a dilapidated department store somewhere south of the Thames, electrically heated, poorly insulated, and none of the window frames fit properly. My department was moved here nearly a year ago, while they rebuild Dancy House, which will probably take a decade because they handed it over to a public-private partnership. Nevertheless, the fittings and fixtures of the NDO's office make the rest of the new annex look like a futuristic marvel. The khaki-painted steel frame of the bunk, topped with green wool blankets, looks like something out of a wartime movie. There's even a fading poster on the wall that says, "Careless lips sink ships." This is a joke, right? I'm pointing at the green screen terminal on the desk, and the huge dial-infested rotary phone beside it.
No, sir.
Bill clears his throat.
Unfortunately, the NDO's office budget was misfiled years ago, and nobody knows the correct code to requisition new supplies. At least it's warm in winter. You're right on top of the classified document incinerator room, and it's got the only chimney in the building.
He points out aspects of the room's dubious architectural heritage while I'm scoping out the accessories. I poke at the rusty electric kettle. Will anyone say anything if I bring my own espresso maker?
They'll say, "That's a good idea, sir." Now, if you'd care to pay attention, let me talk you through the call management procedures and what to do in the event of an emergency.
The laundry, like any other government bureaucracy, operates on a 9 to 5 basis, except for those inconvenient bits that don't. The latter tend to be field operations of the kind where, if something goes wrong, they really don't want to find themselves listening to the voicemail system saying, "Invasions of supernatural brain-eating monsters can only be dealt with during core business hours. Please leave a message after the beep." Supernatural? Why, yes. We're part of Her Majesty's government that deals with occult technologies and threats. Certain abstruse branches of pure mathematics can have drastic consequences in the real world. We call them magic. By calling up the gibbering horrors which we unfortunately share a multiverse and the platonic realm of the mathematical truth. Given that computers are tools that can be used for performing certain classes of calculation really fast, it should come as no surprise that applied computational demonology has been a growth area in recent years. My job as a night duty officer is to sit tight and answer the phone. In the unlikely event that it rings, I have a list of numbers I can call. Most of them ring through to duty officers in other departments, but one of them calls through to a special army barracks in Hereford, another goes straight to SHAPE in Brussels, that's NATO's European Theatre Command HQ, and a third dials direct to the Cobra briefing room in Downing Street. Nobody in the laundry has ever had to get the Prime Minister out of bed in the small hours, but there's always a first time. More importantly, it's the NDO's job to make that call if a sufficiency of shit hits the fan on his watch. I've also got a slim folder labeled Top Secret and protected by disturbing wards that flicker across the cover like electrified floaters in the corners of my vision. That contains a typed list of code words relating to secret operations. It doesn't say what the operations are, but it lists the supervisors associated with them, the people to call if one of the agents hits the panic button. I've got an office to hang out in. An office with a bunk bed, like something out of a 50s Carry On film about conscript life in the army. A chimney for the wind to whistle down, the better to keep me awake. A desk with an ancient computer terminal, shoved into the floor to make room for my laptop. And a kettle. There's a bathroom next door with a sink, toilet, and a shower that delivers an anemic trickle of tepid water. There's even a portable black and white TV with a cheap Freeview receiver. This is the first year since they discontinued analog broadcasting, in case I feel compelled to watch reruns of The Two Ronnies. All the modern conveniences, in other words. The office party is scheduled to take place on Wednesday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. sharp.
Oh, I should have waited half an hour, shouldn't I?
As civil servants, however irregular, we're not paid enough to compete with the bankers and corporate Tarkins and Jocastas who fill most of the office blocks in this part of the city. Even in these straitened times, they can afford to drop a couple of hundred notes per head on bubbly. So we don't get a posh restaurant outing. Instead, we have to tart up the staff canteen with some added tinsel, fake snow spray on the windows, and a molting pine tree in a pot by the fire exit. Pinky and Brains kindly installed their home stereo, homemade, not home-sized, in the number 2 lecture theater for the obligatory dance. Eleanor and Beth, with a nod and a wink from oversight, hit on an outside caterer for the sort of comestibles essential to a party and unheard of in a civil service canteen, which could manage cupcakes and a sherry trifle if push came to shove, but whose idea of pizza or curry is ghastly beyond belief. There's a Dunkirk spirit to the whole affair. With the new government in the driving seat, wielding the chainsaw of budget cuts, there's not a lot of luxury to go round. We're good at make do and mend in this department. It's bred in our bureaucratic bones, and with the aid of a 500 quid ents budget to cover the 100-odd folk who work here, we make it work. There is a humdrum ritual for an office Christmas party anywhere in England. The morning beforehand, work takes on a lackadaisical feel. Meetings are truncated by 11 a.m., agendas updated, email filters set to vacation. Some folks, the few, the lucky, begin to clear their desk drawers, for they know they shall not be coming back to work until the new year. A wilted air of festivity wafts through the corridors of power, like a slightly moist crepe banner. Bob? I look up from my Minesweeper session. It's Andy, my sometime manager, leaning in the doorway. You coming to lunch? I stretch, then mouse over to the screen lock. Is it that time already? I don't work for Andy these days, but he seems to take a proprietorial interest in how I'm doing.
Yes.
His head bounces up and down. He looks slightly guilty, like a schoolboy who's been caught with his hands in the sweets jar once too often. Is Mo? She's off site today. I stand up. Actually, she's over in research and development, quaffing port with the double domes, damn it, in an altogether more civilized session than this one. We were planning on meeting up later.
Well, come on then. Wouldn't want to miss the decent seats for the floor show, now would we?
Floor show? I closed the door behind us.
Yes, we have a visitor from Forecasting Ops. I got the email a couple of days ago. One Dr. Kringle has condescended to descend and give us some sort of pep talk about the year ahead.
Kringle? My cheek twitches. The name's unfamiliar. From Forecasting Ops? Who are they? I've heard rumors about them, but nothing concrete. It's probably one of those vague backwaters beavering away in isolation. Why on earth would they want to send someone to talk to us now?
Yes, exactly.
Andy spares me a sidelong glance.
Don't ask me. All I know is what I found in my inbox. Mail from HR. Let him give a little motivational pep talk at the party. Don't worry, he adds quietly. It'll all work out for the best in the end. You'll see. Just sit tight and bite your tongue.
I get it. Andy is wearing his bearer of bad news face while steering me towards the junior officers' bench. Something is about to come down the chute, and all the Christmas cheer in the world isn't going to cover up the stench of manure. As a management grade employee, albeit a junior one, I'm required to show solidarity. Hence being tipped the nod and a wink. I begin to wonder what it can possibly be. The duty officer's room is upstairs, just under the gently pitched roof of the new annex. There's a wired shut skylight, and the wind howls and gibbers overhead. Occasionally there's a sound like gravel on concrete as an errant gust flings a cupful of freezing cold water at the glass, followed by a hollow booming noise from the chimney. The chimney is indeed warm, but it's cooling fast. I guess they've shut down the incinerator over the holiday period. It's just past 11 at night, and there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to sleep while the storm is blowing. When the holiday falls on a weekend day, as Boxing Day does this year, everyone gets a day off in lieu at the beginning of the following week except the night duty officer, who is in it for up to 4 days at triple pay, as long as he doesn't go mad with boredom first. I've been on duty for 6 hours, and I've already caught up on my work email. At least I've replied to everything that needs replying to, and am well into ignoring all the PowerPoints that need ignoring, and gotten bored with gaming. The TV's on in the background, but it's the same old family-friendly fare. I don't want to start on the 2 fat novels I've stockpiled for the weekend too early, so there's only one thing to do. I abandon my cup of tea, pick up my torch, iPhone, and warrant card, and tiptoe forth to poke my nose where it doesn't belong. 'Twas the night before Christmas. The office was closed. The transom was shut. The staff home in repose. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care. But St. Nicholas won't be coming because this is a designated national security site within the meaning of para 4.12 of Section 3 of the Official Secrets Act, amended, and unauthorized intrusion on such a site is an arrestable offense. Had enough of my poetry yet? That's why they pay me to fight demons instead. One of the perks of being night duty officer is that I can poke my nose anywhere I like. After all, I'm responsible for the security of the building. In fact, I can go into places where I'd normally get my nasal appendage chopped right off if I had the temerity to sniff around without authorization. I can look inside Angleton's office, tiptoe between the dangerously active canopic jars and warded optical workbenches of field service, walk the thickly carpeted, dusty corridors of Mahogany Row, and pester the night shift zombies. Sorry, of course I meant to say residual human resources. In the basement. In fact, I'm pretty much encouraged to keep an eye on things. I'm pretty much encouraged to keep an eye on things, just as long as I stay within range of the duty officer's phone. You might think that's a catch, but the duty officer's phone, once you unscrew the huge lump of bakelite, is a remarkably simple piece of 50s vintage electronics. It's not even scrambled. The encryption is handled at the exchange level. So, after a brisk 15 minutes programming a divert into the PBX so it'll ring through to my iPhone, I'm free to go exploring. Did you really think I was going to spend 3 days and nights nursing a landline that hasn't rung in 16 years? Recipe for office Christmas party in the season of cuts. Take 28 junior administrative and secretarial staff, 17 clerical and accounts officers, 12 management grade officers, 4 spies, 5 human resource managers, 9 building security staff, 6 technological support officers, 9 demonologists, optional, 1 or more double agents, ancient horror, lurking horrors from beyond the stars, and zombies. Add crepe paper hats, whistles, party poppers, tinsel decorations, fairy lights, whoopee cushions, cocktail snacks, supermarket mince pies, and cheap wine and spirits to taste. Mix vigorously, blender setting at pre-disco, and pour into staff canteen that has been in urgent need of redecoration since 1977. Seat at benches. Punch repeatedly, not more than 10% alcohol by volume. Serve the turkey, set fire to the Christmas pudding, discover fire extinguisher is 6 months past mandatory HSE inspection deadline, and suppress. Allow to stand while Martin from tech support drunkenly invites Kristen from accounts to audit his packet, during that gap in the hubbub when every other conversation stops simultaneously and you can hear a pin drop. Vera from logistics asks Aisha from HR if her presence at the party means that she's finally found Jesus. And George from security throws up in the Christmas tree tub. And then Andy tings his knife on the edge of his glass repeatedly until everybody finally notices he's trying to get their attention, at which point he stands up. I look wistfully at the tray of slightly stale mince pies in the middle of the table and withdraw my hand.
Quiet, please. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Facilities for organizing a party at short notice and under considerable budgetary constraints, a budget which is unavoidably much tighter than for last year's festivities. Thanks to Amber and Lee for organizing the external catering, and to Dr. Kringle here for kindly approving our request for an entertainments budget, very generously in view of the current Treasury Strategic Deficit Reduction Program.
Applause.
And now, Dr. Kringle has asked if he can say a few words to us all about the year ahead.
I walk the darkened halls. The new annex predates the fad for rat maze cubicle farms in offices, but that never stopped anyone. The result is a curious architectural mixture of tiny locked offices hived off artificially lit corridors, alternating with barn-like open-plan halls full of cheap desks and underpowered computers, their cases yellowing with age. Here's the vast expanse of what used to be the typing pool, so called because in the old days there used to be officers here who couldn't use a keyboard. These days it's our administrative core, a place where civil servants come to die. The laundry, perforce, must find work for many idle hands, the hands of everyone who comes to our attention, and must needs be made a job offer they're not allowed to refuse. Luckily, bureaucracy breeds, and it takes many meetings to manage the added complexity of administration required by our chronic overstaffing. There are people here who I only know of through their Outlook calendars, which are perpetually log-jammed. Entire departments beaver away in anonymous quiet, building paper dams to hold the real world at bay. I shine my torch across empty in trays, battered chairs, desks that reek of existential pointlessness. I could have been trapped here for good, I realize. I shudder as I move on. Being part of the laundry's active service arm brings hazards of its own, but dying of boredom isn't one of them. I turn left and take a shortcut through Mahogany Row. Here the carpet is thick, the woodwork polished rather than painted over. Individual offices with huge oak desks and leather recliners, walls hung with dark oil paintings of old hands in wartime uniform. Nobody is ever in any of these offices. Rumor has it they all transcended or were never human in the first place. These sinister and barely glimpsed senior officers who ran the organization from its early years. I've got my own theory about Mahogany Row, which is that the executives who would be here don't exist yet. In the depths of the coming crisis, as the stars come into cosmic alignment and the old ones return to stalk the earth, the organization will have to grow enormously bigger, taking on new responsibilities and more staff, at which point those of us who survive are going to move on up here to direct the war effort. Assuming the powers that be have more sense than to fill the boardroom with the usual recycled corporate apparatchiks, that is. If they don't, may Cthulhu have mercy on our souls. As I turn the corner past the executive lavatory and approach the fire door, I have a most peculiar sensation. Why do I feel as if I'm being watched? I wonder. I clear my throat. Duty officer. I reach into my pocket and pull out my warrant card. Show yourself! The card glows pale green in the darkness. Nothing stirs. Huh. I palm it, feeling stupid. The night watchmen are about, but they're not supposed to come up here. The wind and rain whooshes and rattles beyond the office windows. I push the door open. It's yet another administrative annex, presumably for the executive secretaries. One of the copiers has a print job stacked face down in the output tray. That strikes me as odd. Given the nature of our work here, security takes a dim view of documents being left lying around. But security won't be making their rounds for a few days. Probably best to take the printouts and stick them in the internal post to whoever ran them off, or in a locked safe, pending a chewing out if anything's confidential. I flip the first sheet over to look for the header page, and do a double take. Buttocks! Pretty damned hairy ones at that. So someone was enjoying the party. The next page features more buttocks, and they're a lot less male, judging by the well-filled stockings and other identifying characteristics. I shake my head. I'm beginning to work out a response. I'm going to pin them on one of the staff notice boards, with an anonymous appeal for folks to wipe down the copier glass after each use. When I get to the third sheet. Whoever sat on the copier lid that time didn't have buttocks, hairy or otherwise, or any other mammalian features for that matter. What I'm holding looks to be a photocopy of the business end of a giant cockroach. Maybe I'm not alone after all. After Kringle drops his turd in the punch bowl of seasonal spirit, the party officially ceases to be fun, even for drably corporate values of fun. My appetite evaporates too. They can keep the pies for all I care. I grab a bottle of Blue Nun and tiptoe back towards my cubicle in the counter possession unit. Fuck. Mo isn't here. She's already headed off to see her mum. She'd understand, though. I'm on duty from tomorrow through Monday morning, and not supposed to leave the building. I was going to go home tonight, run the washing machine, pack a bag with clean clothes for the weekend, that sort of thing. But right now, the urge to get blind, falling down drunk is calling me. Because this is the last Christmas party at the laundry. I pull out my phone to call Mo, then pause. She's got her hands full with Mum right now. Why add to her worries? And besides, this isn't a secure voice terminal. I can't safely say everything that needs to be said. The compulsion to confidentiality runs deep, backed up by my oath of office. To knowingly break it risks very unpleasant consequences. I'm about to put my phone away when Andy clears his throat. He's standing right behind me, an unlit cigarette pinched between two fingers. Bob? I take another deep breath. Yeah? Want to talk? I nod. Where? The clubhouse. I follow him, out through a door onto the concrete balcony at the back of the new annex that leads to the external fire escape. We call it the clubhouse in jest. It's where the smokers hang out, exposed to the elements. There's a sand bucket half submerged in scorched fag ends sitting by the door. I wait while Andy lights up. His fingers are shaking slightly, I see. He's skinny, tall, about 5 years older than me. 4 grades higher, too. 4 grades higher, too, managing the head office side of various ops that it's not sensible to ask about. Wears a suit, watches the world from behind a slightly sniffy air of academic amusement, as if nothing really matters very much. But his detachment is gone now, blown away like a shred of smoke on the wind. "What do you make of it?" he asks bluntly. I look at his cigarette, for a moment wishing I smoked. It's not looking good. As signs of the apocalypse go, the last office Christmas party ever is a bit of a red flag. Andy hides a cough with his fist. "I sincerely hope not." "What's Kringle's track record?" I ask. "Surely he's been pulling rabbits out of hats long enough we can run a Bayesian analysis and see how well he—" I trail off, seeing Andy's expression. "He's one of the best precognitives we've ever had, so I'm told, and what he's saying backs up Dr. Mike's revised time frame for Case Nightmare Green, the end of the world, when, in the words of the mad seer, the stars come right. It's actually a 70-year-long window during which the power of magic multiplies monstrously, and alien horrors from the dark ages before the Big Bang become accessible to any crack-brained preacher with a yen to talk to the devil. We thought we had a few years' grace. According to Dr. Mike, our calculations are wrong, and the window began to open 9 months ago.
Something really bad is coming. If Kringle can't see through to next December 24th, then, well, he probably won't be alive then.
So he stares into the void, and the void stares back. Maybe he won't be alive. I'm clutching at straws. I don't suppose there's any chance he's just going to be run over by a bus? Andy gives me a look, of a kind I've been beginning to recognize more since the business in Brookwood. Infinite existential despair tempered with a goodly dose of rage against the inevitable, dammed up behind a stiff upper lip. To be fair, I've been handing out a fair number of them myself.
I have no idea. Frankly, it's all a bit vague. Precog fugues aren't deterministic, Bob. Worse, they tend to disrupt whatever processes they're predicting the outcome of. That's why forecasting ops are so big on statistical analysis. If Kringle said we won't see another Christmas party, you can bet they've rolled the dice more than the bare minimum to fit the confidence interval.
So preempt his prophecy. So preempt his prophecy already. Use the weak anthropic principle. If we cancel next year's Christmas party, his prophecy is delayed indefinitely. Right? Andy rolls his eyes.
Don't be fucking stupid.
It was a long shot. Pause. What are we going to do?
We?
Andy raises one eyebrow.
I am going to go home to the wife and kids for Christmas and try to forget about threats to our very existence for a bit. You,
He takes a deep gulp of smoke.
get to play at night duty officer, patrolling the twilit corridors to protect our workplace from the hideous threats of the filler of stockings who oozes through chimneys and ventilation ducts every dead god's birthday eve to perform unspeakable acts against items of hosiery. Try not to let it get to you. Oh, and have a nice holiday while you're at it.
My appetite for nocturnal exploration is fading, tempered by the realization that I may not be the only one putting in some overtime in the office tonight. I reach for my ward, hung around my neck like an identity badge, and feel it. It tingles normally and is cool. Good. If it was hot or glowing or throbbing, I could expect company. It's time to get back to the NDO room and regroup. I tiptoe back the way I came, thinking furiously. Item. It's the night before Christmas, and backup is scarce to non-existent. Item. You can fool everyone at an office party with a Class 3 glamour, but you can't fool a photocopier. Item. Kringle's prophecy. Item. We're in Case Nightmare Green, and things that too many people believe in have a nasty tendency to come true. Magic is a branch of applied computation. Neural networks are computing devices, and there are too many people, and the stars are right, making it much too easy to gain the attention of entities that find us crunchy and good with ketchup. Item. Who or what kind of uninvited entity might want to sit in on Kringle's little pep talk? I'm halfway down the corridor through Mahogany Row, and I break into a run.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Kringle wrings his hands as he speaks. They're curiously etiolated and pale-skinned, like those of a deep one, but he lacks the hunched back or gills. There's only the pallid, stringy hair and the thick, horn-rimmed glasses concealing a single watery blue eye. The other is covered by a leather patch, to mark him out as odd. But his gaze...
It will be a good afternoon until I finish speaking. Until I finish speaking.
There we go. He smiles like a hangman's trapdoor opening.
So drink up now and be of good cheer, because this will be the last Christmas party held by the laundry.
Up to this point, most folks have been ignoring him or listening with polite incomprehension. Suddenly, though, you could hear a mouse fart.
You need have no fear of downsizing or treasury cuts to comply with the revised public spending guidelines. His smile fades. I speak of more fundamental, irrevocable changes. My department, Forecasting Operations, is tasked with attempting to evaluate the efficacy of proposed action initiatives in pursuit of the organization's goals, notably the prevention of incursions by gibbering horrors from beyond space-time. Policies are originated, put on the table, and we descry their consequences. It's a somewhat hit-and-miss profession, but our ability to peer into the abyss of the future allows us to sometimes avoid the worst pitfalls.
Kringle continues in this vein for some time. His voice is oddly soporific, and it takes me a while to figure out why. He reminds me of a BBC radio weather forecaster. They have this slot for the weather forecast right before the news, and try as I will, I always zone out right before they get to whatever region I happen to be interested in, and wake up as they're finishing. It's uncanny. Kringle is clearly talking about something of considerable importance, but my mind skitters off the surface of his words like a wasp on a plate glass window. I shake my head and begin to look round, when the words flicker briefly into focus.
Claus, or Santa Claus in the medieval Dutch usage, a friendly figure in a red suit who brings presents in the depths of winter, may have a more sinister meaning. Think not only of traditions of the Norse Odin, with which the figure of Santa Claus is associated, but with the shamanic rituals of Lap antiquity, performed by a holy man who drank the urine of reindeer that had eaten the sacred toadstool. Amanita muscaria, wearing the bloody flayed skin of the poisoned animals to gain his insight into the next year. We, with modern statistical filtering methodologies, can gain much more precise insights, but at some personal cost.
Eh? I shake my head again, then take another mouthful from the paper cup of cheap plonk. The words go whizzing past, almost as if they're tagged for someone else's attention. Which is odd, because I'm trying to follow what he's saying. I've got a peculiar feeling that this stuff is important.
In particular, certain facts appear indisputable. There will be no laundry staff Christmas dinner next year. We can't tell you why, but as a result of events I believe have already taken place, this will be the last one. Indeed, attempts over the past year to investigate outcomes beyond this evening have met with abject failure. The end of this party is the last event that forecasting operations is able to predict with any degree of confidence.
I arrive back in the duty officer's room with a chilly sheen of sweat coating the small of my back. The lights on, casting a cheery glow through the frosted glass window in the door, and the TV's blathering happily away. I duck inside and shut it behind me, then grab the spare wooden chair and prop it under the door handle. My memory of Kringle's talk seems altogether too disturbingly like a dream for my taste. Even the conversation with Andy has an oddly vaporous feel to it. I've had this kind of experience before, and the only thing to do is to test it. I plonk myself down behind the desk and unlock the drawer, then pull out the phone book. Rain rattles on the window above my head as I open it, an electric tingling in my fingertips reminding me that the wards on the cover are very much alive. Come on, where are you? I run a shaky finger down the page. What I'm looking for isn't there. A dog that didn't bark in the night. I swallow, then I go back and search a different section for Andy's home number. Yes, he's listed, and he's got a secure terminal. Time check. It's 20 to midnight, not quite late enough to be seriously antisocial. I pick up the telephone receiver and begin to laboriously spin the dial. The phone rings 3 times.
Andy?
Andy?
Hello? Who is this?
It's a woman's voice. This is Bob from the office. I wonder, is Andy available? I won't take a minute.
Bob?
Bob?
Bob? Bob?
Bob. Andy takes the receiver.
Talk to me.
I clear my throat. Sorry to call you like this, but it's about the office party. The guy who spoke to us from forecasting operations. Do you remember his name, and have you ever dealt with him before? There's a pause.
Forecasting operations?
Andy sounds puzzled. My stomach clenches.
Who are they? I haven't heard of any forecasting. What's going on?
Do you remember our conversation in the clubhouse? I asked.
What, about personal development courses? Can't it wait until next year?
I glance back at the phone book. I'll get back to you. I think I've got a situation. I put the handset down very carefully, as if it's made of sweating gelignite. Gelignite. Then I leaf through the phone book again. Nope, forecasting operations aren't listed. And Andy doesn't remember Dr. Kringle, or his lecture, or our conversation on the balcony. I've got a very bad feeling about this. Like the famous mad philosopher said, when you stare into the void stares also. But if you cast into the void, you get a type conversion error, which just goes to show Nietzsche wasn't a C++ programmer. Dr. Kringle was saying his department tests new policies, then read the future and read the future and change their plans in a hurry if things don't work out for the best, throwing scenarios into the void. What if there was a forecasting operations department, and when they stared into the void once too often, something bad happened? Something so bad that they unintentionally edited themselves out of existence. I glance at the TV. It's movie time, and tonight they're running The Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Skellington sings his soliloquy as he stands before the portal he's opened to Christmastown. And that's when I realize what's going on. It's Christmas Eve, and the stars are right. Parents the world over still teach their children that if they're good, Santa will bring them presents. There are things out there in the void, hungry things hidden in the gaps between universes, that come when they're called. Tonight, hundreds of millions of innocent children are calling Santa. Who's really coming down your chimney tonight? It's distinctly cold in the duty officer's room, which is odd because it's not that cold outside. It's windy and raining heavily, but that's London for you. I turn and stare at the aluminum ductwork that runs from floor to ceiling. That's the incinerator shaft, isn't it? It's coated in beads of condensation. I reach a hand towards it, then pull my fingers back in a hurry. Cold air is spilling off the pipe in chilly waves, and as I glance at the floor, I see a thin mist. I left a nearly empty cup of tea on my desk when I went on my nocturnal ramble. Now I pick it up and throw the contents at the chimney. The drops of ice crackle as they hit the floor, and my ward is suddenly a burning hot weight at the base of my throat. I'm on my feet and over the other side of the desk before I have time to think. There's an anomalously cold chimney in my office. Cold enough that air is condensing on it. Cold enough that it sucks the heat out of a cup of tepid tea in milliseconds. But what does it mean? Aside from, I'm in big trouble. That's a given, of course. What it means is, there's an incursion. Something's coming down the chimney, something from the dark anthropic zone, from a corner of the multiverse drained of all meaning and energy. Let's steal a facetious phrase from Andy and call it the filler of stockings, lurker in fireplaces, bringer of gifts. Odin, Mjolnir, the king in red, pick your culture, prepare to die. All it knows is that it's cold, and it's hungry, and it wants inside. These things gain energy from belief. This office, this organization, we're its first target because we know it's kind of old. If it can get a toehold anywhere, it'll be here, but I haven't seen it yet, so I don't have to believe. Damn Kringle for coming and talking to us. If I can keep it out of the new annex until dawn, it'll be too late for the bringer of gifts to claw its way through the wall between the worlds, for this year at least. But if it's already in the incinerator chimney, I pull the chair out from under the door handle, grab my torch, and head out in a hurry. Nighttime hijinks and explorations in the office take on a whole different significance when you know that it's 18 minutes to midnight, and, by tradition, that's when something hungry and unspeakably alien is going to break out of the incinerator in the basement, expecting to find a stocking and some midnight snacks to appease its voracious appetite. Here's the flip side of millions of sleeping believers in Santa providing an opening for something horrible to enter our cosmos. They expect him to go away again after he leaves the toys. The summoning comes with an implicit ritual of banishment, but you've got to get the ritual right. If you don't, you break your side of the bargain. The other party to the summoning is free to do whatever it wills. Oh, sorry, I misread that. If you break your side of the bargain, the other party to the summoning is free to do whatever it wills. 17 minutes to midnight. I'm in the admin pool again, and there's the stationery cupboard. It's locked, of course, and I spend a precious minute fumbling with the bunch of keys before I find one that fits. Inside the cupboard, I find what I'm looking for, a box of push pins. I move on, not bothering to lock it behind me. If I succeed, there'll be time to tidy up later. I bypass Mahogany Row and the sleeping ghosts of management to come, and head for the canteen. Maxine and her friends put some effort into preparing it for the party, and if I'm lucky... Yup, I'm in luck. Nobody's taken the decorations down yet. I turn the lights on, hunting around until I see it. A red and white stripy stocking stuffed with small cardboard boxes hangs from the corkboard by the dumbwaiter. I grab it and dig the boxes out, nearly laddering it in my haste. The canteen's bare, but the kitchen is next door, and I fumble for the key again, swearing under my breath, "Why aren't these things clearly labeled?" until I get the door unlocked. The fridge is still humming. I get it open, and I find what I was hoping for, a tray of leftovers, still covered in cling film. 10 minutes. I run for the staircase, clutching stocking, pin box, and tray of stale mince pies. In my pockets, conductive marker pen, iPhone loaded with the latest laundry countermeasures package, and a few basic essentials for the jobbing computational demonologist. I'm still in time as I leg it down 2 stories. And then I'm at the basement doors. I pause briefly to review my plan. Item: get to the incinerator room without being stopped, optionally eaten, by the night watch. Item: get the stocking pinned up above the incinerator and place the pies nearby. Item: draw the best containment grid I can manage around the whole mess and hope to hell that it holds. What could possibly go wrong? I plant my tray on the floor, pull out my keyring, and unlock the door to the basement. It's funny how many of the pivotal events in my life take place underground. From the cellar of a secret Nazi redoubt to a crypt in the largest necropolis in Europe via the scuppers of an ocean-going spy ship. Seen 'em all, got the tour shirt. I've even visited the basement of the new annex a time or two. But it's different at night, with the cold imminence of an approaching dead god clutching at your heartstrings. I walk down a dim, low-ceilinged passage lined with pipes and cable bearers, past doors and utility cupboards, and a disturbingly coffin-like ready room where the night staff wait impassively for intruders. No stir of undead limbs rises to stop me. My warrant card sees to that. Forget ghostly illumination and handheld torches. I'm not stupid. I switched the lights on before I came down here. Nevertheless, it's creepy. I'm not certain where the document incinerator lives, so I'm checking door plaques when I feel a cold draft of air on my hand. Glancing up, I see a frost-rimed duct, so I follow it until it vanishes into the wall beside a door with a wired glass window which is glowing cheerily with light from within. Looks like I've got company. I'm about to put my tray down and fumble with the key ring when my unseen companion saves me the effort and opens the door. So I raise the tray before me, take a step forward, and say, "Just who the hell are you, really?"
Come in, Mr. Howard. I've been expecting you.
The thing that calls itself Dr. Kringle takes a step backwards into the incinerator room, beckoning. I stifle a snort of irritation. He's taken the time to change into a cowled robe that hides his face completely. Only one skeletal hand projects from a sleeve, and I can tell at a glance that it's got the wrong number of joints. I lick my lips. You can cut the Dickensian crap, Kringle. I'm not buying it.
But I am. The ghost of Christmas is probably yet to come.
Ooh, touchy. Yeah, and I'm the Tooth Fairy. Listen, I've got a stocking to put up and not much time. You're the precognitive, so you tell me. Is this where you try to eat my soul, or try to recruit me to your cult, or something, and we have to fight? Or are you just going to stay out of my way and let me do my job?
Oh, do what you will. It won't change the eventual outcome.
Kringle crosses his arms affrontedly. At least I think they're arms. They're skinny, there's too many elbows, and now I notice them, I realize he's got two pairs. The incinerator is a big electric furnace, with a hopper feeding into it beside a hanging rack of sacks that normally holds the confidential document shreddings. I park the pie tray on top of the furnace, which is already cold enough that I risk frostbite if I touch it with bare skin, and hang the empty stocking from one of the hooks on the rack. Ghastly hunger beyond human comprehension is the besetting vice of extra-dimensional horrors. If they get prioritized better, they might actually be more successful. If they prioritized better, they might actually be more successful. In my experience, you can pretty much bet that if J. Random Horror has just emerged after being imprisoned in an icy void for uncountable millennia, it'll be feeling snackish. Hence the tempting tray of comestibles. I glance at my watch. It's 4 minutes to midnight. Then I eyeball the furnace control panel. Kringle is standing beside it. "So what's the story?" I ask him.
You already know most of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
He sounds bored, as well he might. "Why don't you tell me while we wait?"
Why don't you tell me while we wait?
"All right." I point at him. "You're here because you're trapped in a time paradox. Once upon a time, the laundry had a forecasting ops department. But when you play chess with the future, you risk checkmate, not to mention being assimilated by that which you study. The first thing forecasting ops ever forecast was the probability of its own catastrophic capture by something. So it was disbanded. But you can't disband something like that without leaving echoes, can you? So you're just an echo of a future that never happened." The spectral shade in its ragged robe bobs its head, or whatever it has in place of a head. The Christmas incursion, I glance at the cold furnace again, then at my watch, would have killed you, but without forecasting ops to warn us about it, it'd happen anyway, wouldn't it? 3 minutes. So you had to maneuver someone into position to deal with it even though you don't exist. I remember sitting through a bizarre and interminable lecture at the Christmas party, but who else remembers sitting through it? Andy doesn't remember Kringle's talk, and I bet that aside from my own memories and a weirdly smudged photocopy, emergent outcome of some distorted electron orbitals in a samarium-coated cylinder, there's no evidence that the ghost of Christmases rendered fictional by temporal paradox ever visited the laundry on a wet and miserable night. So much for the emergency phone book. 2 minutes. "How far into the future can you see right now?" I ask Kringle. I take a step forward, away from the furnace hopper. "Move aside," I add. Kringle doesn't shift.
The future is here.
Sorry.
The future is here.
he says in a tone of such hollow, despairing dread that it lifts the hair on the back of my neck. There's a booming, banging sound inside the furnace. I squint. Something writhes inside the tiny, smoke-dimmed inspection window. My watch is slow. There's no time left. I step close to the control panel and, bending down, hastily scrawl a circle on the floor around my feet.
Wait, where did the pies come from?
Kringle asks. I complete the circuit.
The kitchen. Does it matter?
But you're doomed.
He sounds puzzled. Something is coming down the chimney, but it's not dressed in fur from the head to its feet, and it doesn't have twinkling eyes and dimpled cheeks. Nope, I insist. I point at the bait, and I intend to prove it.
But it ain't you,
Kringle says indignantly.
Then we all died. I came to warn you, but did you listen? No.
The trouble with prophecies of your own demise is that, like risk assessments, if you pay too much attention to them, they can become self-fulfilling. So I ignore the turbulent time ghost and stare at the fat greenish tip of one pseudopod. I stare as, not at, sorry. So I ignore the turbulent time ghost and stare as the fat greenish tip of one pseudopod emerges and, twitching, quests blindly towards the frozen pies on top of the furnace. I stare for what feels like hours, but in reality is only a couple of seconds. Then, in a flashing moment, the tentacle lashes out and simultaneously engulfs all the pies, sucker-like mouths sprouting from its integument to snap closed around them. The filler of stockings is clearly no exception to the hunger rule. Having fed, its questing tentacle slows, perhaps hampered by the bulges along its length. It lazily curls over towards the gaping, ice-rimed mouth of the stocking. Waves of coldness roll from it. As I draw breath, it feels like I'm inhaling razor blades. The temperature in the room is dropping by double-digit degrees per second.
What?
Says Kringle. He sounds surprised. Clearly, this isn't the future he signed up for back in Time Ghost Central Casting.
Who ate all the pies?
I twist the handle of the main circuit breaker to the live position and stab at the green on button with rapidly numbing fingers. There were quite a lot left over, I tell him helpfully, after you spoiled everyone's appetite with that speech.
No, that can't be.
There comes a deep hum and a rattle of ventilators, and the incinerator powers up. There follows a sizzling flash and a howling whoop of pain and fury as the filler of stockings, thwarted, tries to disentangle its appendage from the gas jets. To a many-angled one, we impoverished entities who are stranded in 3+1 dimensions are fairly harmless. Nevertheless, even the inhabitants of Flatland can inflict a nasty paper cut upon the unwary on occasion. My ward is alight, blazing like a flashbulb as it sears the skin on my chest. The tentacle sticking out of the furnace hopper combusts with a flash of fire and a horrible stench of burning calamari. Simultaneously, the shade of Dr. Kringle swirls and spirals from view, curling into the hopper even as a nacreous glow shines from inside, half-glimpsed things looping and writhing like colored worms within. The howling fades into a flatulent sigh, leaving a faint ringing in my ears, as of distant church bells. I take a deep breath as my ward dims, trying to get my terror-driven pulse back down to normal. There's something on the floor. I squint and bend forward, puzzled. And after a moment, I see that the filler of stockings has left me a coal. And that was Overtime by Charles Stross. Fun times. It's a goofy little story. So I figured that would be a cute little moderately appropriate one for the holidays. Hopefully people are enjoying their holiday. Merry Christmas to all, or whatever denomination of celebratory impetus that you choose to utilize. I'm realizing this is going to be a pretty short one. Do I have any other really short stories farting around? Let's see. I have a couple of them floating around. Or do I just call it good at that? What do we got? I'm not going to do that one. That one I think is pretty long. That one I don't know at all. No, that one's a bit too crass. I might do that next year. Nope, I think I've read that one. You know what? Let me see how long that one is. Oh, that one's not too bad. Here we go. And I can have a little fun with this one. Let me... What is this one called? Kidnapped Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. Give me one sec here, and I'll try to get this open. Come on. Oh, no, that doesn't help me much, does it? Is there a PDF? A PDF would be perfect. Ah, here we go. That'll do. That'll do. Oh, that one's actually quite a bit longer than I thought. I take it back. All right, we'll call it for today. Happy holidays to everyone, and to all a happy holiday. Yeah, I'll do that one next year. That one should be good for next year. I've got a solid collection here of uh, holiday themed science fiction and fantasy stories. Um, and I try to read a couple every year that it comes up on one of the days, which is pretty good odds, all told. Pretty good odds indeed. So yeah, with that, we'll call it good. Um, and yeah, actually, I can leave you with a. Will that work? Will that work? One sec, I've got to. Come on. Oh, that's why. Nope, that's not going to work. No worries. Okay, sorry. I did not plan ahead for this one. I planned ahead a little. Like it was like I know what I'm going to read, and then I was like, I have time. I have time. I have time. I have time. And then I did not have time. So yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in. Hope you enjoyed. This Friday we'll be doing more from The Dark Forest by Xijin Liu. Our plot is now started to get underway. We've learned about what wall facers are, and we're going to learn about what they can do and what is expected of them. Let's see. Oh, yeah, and I think we're going to get into the moderately squicky. Um, we've already done the imaginary girlfriend thing, but unfortunately, that's not the end of it, and it's kind of uncomfortable. But we will probably be seeing the beginning of that this week. Like the first half of this book is like really hit or miss. There's some good stuff in it, but it's like there's a bunch of stuff that it's like I don't know, what are we doing here, folks? The back half of the book is pretty great. Um, the climax is absolutely worth it. With that though, I'm gonna go. Next week, we are still business as usual. We'll be doing Yukikaze by Chohei Kanbayashi on Monday. We'll be doing Permutation City by Greg Egan on Wednesday. And Dark Forest on Friday. Nothing will change. If you're tuning in, listening to this after the fact, and I will get up a festive streams playlist as well at the end of the month. There aren't very many of them. There's, I think, only three. There was one year where I could have done it but didn't. Um, I could maybe mash it together with April Fool's stuff. There's been a couple April Fools that I missed that I had the opportunity to do, and then either forgot or what have you. Anyway, oh, I can close that. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. Stay safe, stay sane, stay toasty or cool as per your preference, and be decent to each other. That's suitably festive. I say that all the time, though. Does that make me the most festive? I don't think so. I mean, I could come as Santa next time, but I don't ever show my face, so it'd be kind of tough to do. At any rate, have a good one, all. Hope you're having a nice hope you're having a nice time, as I am, and I'll see you all later. Toodaloo. Until next time.